Hi, my name is Shreya, and welcome to my podcast, All About Her, where a confused high schooler, aka me, interviews influential women to learn about their experiences and advice for girls like me. Today, I'll be interviewing a woman who's been all the way from being a musician to now being a mathematician. And we'll be talking about the struggles she's faced along the way from pursuing such a male-dominated field and how she's so incredibly successful now. So, I hope you enjoy this interview with Ami Radunskaya, who is a professor of mathematics at Pomona College. And let's just jump right in. Introduce what your current career is and what you kind of specialize in.
Sure. So I am a professor of mathematics at Pomona College, which is a small liberal arts college near Los Angeles. I've been there for 25 years. So I'd say that I've made a good career of that. And I love teaching. The job is half teaching, half research. That's how they advertise it. So I really like both of those things. And I also spend a lot of my time in kind of national efforts to make the math community more accessible to everybody, and women and people of color. So that's my job right now.
That's really cool. And, you know, I often find that people have various stages in life. Like, for me personally, I've gone through wanting to be a doctor or when I was really little, I wanted to be a soccer player or something. So what were, some of your dream jobs growing up, and how does it compare to, where you are today as a mathematician?
When I was little, I thought for sure, no doubt about it, I was going to be a concert pianist and specializing in Mozart. That was my first dream. Until I was about 10 years old. And then when I was 9, I started taking cello lessons. And I found out that the cello you play with other people. And so you're making music together with a quartet or with an ensemble. And that's what I wanted to do. So I was going to be a cellist. Of course, my parents didn't think that was a very good idea. They thought musicians, they don't earn money. It's a good thing to do for fun, and you should work really hard at it and practice for hours and hours a day, but it's not something you should do as a living. And my mother kept giving me books about doctors, lives of women doctors, and there weren't that many, but, various books like that. And my dad kept giving me things like slide rules and sets where you could make pulleys and levers and do physics experiments and things like that. So it was clear what they wanted me to do, and I knew what I wanted to do. In high school, I was encouraged, I'd say, by my teachers, but not challenged enough in high school. I think if I had been maybe more challenged as a student, that would have grabbed me more. Or maybe if those academic activities were more social, like I felt like I belonged socially, I might have done that more. I remember one time entering a math contest. One of those things, you go on the weekend and you take a test, and then they announce results. And the day after that, when they announced the results, all my friends in my physics class, who were all guys, they wouldn't sit with me anymore because I did better than them on this stupid test, which, who cares anyway, right? But they were just dissed me terribly. And I remember distinctly then from that day on, sitting way in the back of the class instead of being up front and all engaged. And I think things like that happening, repeatedly make you think, this isn't that fun. I'd rather play music with my friends, and where I get not only the joy of making something together with people and also, some recognition and stuff, but feel that community. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, were your parents mathematicians or scientists?
My dad is a professor of economics, so he actually got his PhD in statistics. He's very much a mathematician. He calls himself a mathematician. And he was a big influence, I would say, and so even though at school I didn't really have that community that was exciting to be in mathematically, at home, I did, we'd play chess together. We'd talk about in different kinds of infinity, stuff like that. So I think that, and he had friends that would show me, their very early computer programs where they would make cool patterns and things and stuff. But you could see they were excited about what they were doing, right? And that was important. My mom started out as she was interested in medicine and biology and those things.
Oh.
And she went to started grad school, but had some kind of bad experience. And to this day, I don't quite know what happened, but some creepy thing, probably her professor of the lab did. She came home one day and just said she was going to quit and started having babies, and that was it. And so she loved science and medicine. She was, I don't know if you know, mothers like this, so she'd go to our doctor's appointments with the pediatrician, with these volumes of books and looking things up. Now we have the internet and stuff, but in those days, people didn't. But she looked everything up and asked tons of questions. And so part of that was not lost on me, I'm sure.
So I know you just kind of touched on this, but how was your high school experience in general, and how do you think that either contributed or didn't contribute as much to your career currently?
So my high school experience was good. I mean, I had a good time, but was not super nurturing of my mathematical self. I didn't ever have a math teacher who was a female who was like, I want to be like you or anything. I didn't know. Even though my dad was a professor, he had very, very few female colleagues. I can't even remember one single one. I'm sure there was probably one, but it wasn't like, oh, I want to be like her. But on the other hand, I did know a few cellists that were super great female cellists, like Jacqueline Dupre and Zara Nelson, and it's like, I want to be like them. So I did have female role models in that world. The other thing that was happening at that time was a lot of political unrest. So I grew up in Berkeley in the 70s, 60s and 70s, when there was, the world was going to change, we were going to get rid of war and all sorts of barriers, and everybody would be equal. And it feels like that's all happening again now. But it made my high school time quite disconnected. Like my last year of high school, we decided at Berkeley High to dismantle the school, form our own little sub-schools where we would focus on what we wanted. And I honestly don't know how we were allowed to do this, but we were. And so I was in charge, one of the leaders of this model school A, we called it, where we decided to, instead of having English and history and all these separate topics, we were going to have all the topics kind of synergistically presented together. And we'd have a lot of African American writers and historians, and we'd discuss everything. And we'd have these intense discussions about race and not so much gender, oddly enough, but that all those things seem so much more important than, taking care of your own future career, if that makes any sense. So I think that had some effect. I often think about if I hadn't grown up at that place at that time, what might have happened.
So, considering, your high school experience and the fact that you didn't really have many female role models in, the math field to look up to, how and when do you think you found your passion for math or for music as well, if you want to talk about that?
So right after high school, I graduated high school early. I was 16. I did start at UC Berkeley. My parents thought I was too young to go away to school. That's another thing that might have changed things. But I also joined the symphony, the Oakland Symphony, so I could earn some money. I moved out. I got my own apartment. My mother said she wouldn't speak to me again. She did after a few years, but she was really upset with me. And I also, so I was going to UC Berkeley, but playing professionally. And the first set of exams came along, and I was playing in the Messiah in the evening, and I said to my chemistry prof, I have to leave early. Can I take the test other time? And this was a class of 350 people, and the guy's like, no way, you decide what you want to do. You go to school, you do this other thing. And so I quit school. And I finished that particular quarter, but I realized I couldn't do both these things at once. And I thought it was easier to come back to college later than it would be to come back to a musical life, because that just seems, everybody, from everything I heard, it's just hard to get back into that later. So I quit school and just played the cello for about 10 years. I always had a book of math problems under my chair during rehearsal when I got bored, and I could do them. And so, but I didn't, for some reason, it's very odd to me that I did not think of that as something I could do for a living. It seems weird, right? I had a dad who was a professor. I knew people, but it's just I did not ever once see myself there. And then what happened is I had a baby, and I'm carrying this baby around to rehearsals, and he went on 2 European tours before he was 6 months old, and I realized this is not going to work. Because he, little baby, tiny babies, they don't know where they are. But when they get to be close on a year, they start to notice their surroundings. He was not sleeping well. I got to do something keeps me home at night. So I think I'll go to college. That was how I decided to go back to school. And that was, I found, I actually like this. I started in chemistry, but I realized I was not very good at being very careful in those experiments. I'd spill things and break stuff, and I liked the theory part of it. Then I looked into computer science, but I really didn't like the culture there. In those days, it was all guys, and they were very antisocial and strange people. And so I just gravitated towards math, which seemed easy, seemed like games, it didn't seem like real work. And then I had a few professors who encouraged me to go to grad school, and, I seemed like, why not? So I went to Stanford, and then I got my PhD, and then so it really didn't feel like some kids know, I want to be a whatever. But this whole math professor thing kind of came at me, snuck up on me. And I did realize when I was a graduate student, even a bit as an undergrad, that I did very much enjoy teaching and helping people that's kind of where I found the community piece finally, in math is, get that excitement when people get it,
So, you kind of, again, touched on some struggles that you kind of faced prior to your career. What are, like the few that really stuck with you, like the few times of struggle or the few things that, where you really struggled prior to your career, and how do those compare to maybe some struggles that you still face into your career?
So I think the first major obstacle I faced was a sense in math that you do your best work when you're really young. There's this notion of the math prodigy and Gauss who proved, and Galois who proved all his theorems before he died at 16 or something. So there's this notion that coming back after a break of 10 years, you're just not going to make it. So I show up and really people had no confidence that I would stick it out at all, even stick it out, much less do okay. And so I felt like I was constantly having to prove myself over and over and over. And part of it, I think, was being a woman, because that made it doubly worse. And part of it was this kind of ageism idea in math. So that was the first big obstacle. And then the second one was being quite lonely. It was hard to find peers that I could really relate to. And again, it had to do somewhat with the gender imbalance. So in my graduate program, there were 0 women professors. There were not that many women students. And they're trying to build support and just a community was tricky. And I think that's probably why now I do spend a lot of my time trying to do that for other people. And then this constant feeling that people don't think you can do it and having to prove yourself over and over. And I think both of those things have persisted throughout my life. Now I do have, I think, a pretty good community, but I felt like I had to work hard to build that for myself. The world has changed a bit, which is great. So we have wonderful young people like you and that are, now not so afraid that you can see yourself as being in STEM or doing whatever you want. That's fantastic. And this thing about people not believing in you, I see that still as a thing. And even me right now, as kind of this more senior person who some might think has accomplished a lot, I still feel judged all the time. I think that's very hard to get rid of, to live beyond, because you internalize that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the reason why me and other girls like me, my age, and even younger now, are able to kind of work past that or to dream beyond what we imagine when we're younger is because of women like you that really did persist and built something so incredible for themselves. And, I'm just really grateful that we have this opportunity because of women like you. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
So, just from your entire life, what is one moment that you really, can center in on and say that was a really impactful moment for you, or something you really learned, something that you carried forward with you?
Well, I think it is, I think the moment that I finally got my degree and moved on and got my first job was huge, because there were a lot of endings there. You know, I grew up in Berkeley. I lived there. I went to UC Berkeley and then Stanford. You know, I totally stayed in the Bay Area. I had a baby. I got married while in grad school. And then I got a job in Texas. And I had to go outside of not just California, I had to go to Texas, you know, where you know, women have big hair and there's it was quite different culturally. And I had to leave all my friends. I split up with my husband, you know, I was really on my own. And making it through the first year of that, I felt like, okay, I can do anything now. and I came to a department that also had 0 women, like hard to believe, but 0. I was the first one in the department, and but what was cool is there were young women who would come and go, thank goodness someone teaching math in a skirt, you know, and we started a kind of a club I called the Women Math Warriors. And we gave talks, and so I felt really proud of that, building something there, making it through. I felt like, you know, I was doing something for other people. So that was a really good moment.
And just one last note, what's some like advice that you would have for other girls who want to pursue math and who want to pursue music, or maybe both?
Mm-hmm. I would say don't listen to anyone who tells you negative things, or someone starts with, you can't, just ignore everything else they say after that. You know, surround yourself with people who believe in you, or at least, you know, affirm your goals for yourself and tell you that you're awesome, tell you that you're great, tell you can do it. And because those are the voices you want to carry with you.
So thank you so much for this interview, Ami. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Shreya. I wish you the very, very best.
Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to send you the link to the interview once it's out.
Okay, great. Good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks again, Ami, for joining me today. Your story is truly very, very inspiring, and I learned so much from this interview. Don't forget to go check out Ami's LinkedIn, which I'll link down below in the description, and look out for episode 5 on Wednesday. Also, follow me on Instagram for updates of my posting schedule and for any suggestions of women you guys would like me to interview in the future. And in the meanwhile, remember to stay safe, stay strong, and stay snazzy. Ciao!